Welcome to the C# Programmer Zambia. In the previous video, we looked at an introduction to arrays. In this video, I'm going to be introducing you to multi-dimensional arrays. So before we go ahead, I would like you to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and hit the bell icon to get instant notifications on my uploads. So without wasting much of your time, let's dive right into it.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
So just like our previous videos, it's very useful for us to have an explanation of what we're about to look at. So we're going to have this. Now, to start with, we're going to look at two-dimensional arrays. So in order for you to declare any array, you firstly need the data type, the identifier, and the size of that array. Now, for two-dimensional arrays, it's going to be very useful for us to think of them as being a table, for example, or a matrix, like the matrices that we have in mathematics. So it's very useful to think of them as having rows and columns. So we have an array of integer data type, and A is its name. So it's having 3 rows and 4 columns. So it's going to be very useful to think of arrays as tables, and when declaring them, it's row by column. So we have the number of rows in the square brackets and the number of columns in the square brackets. So if we think of this array, it's going to have be something like this table that we have here. So the first value is going to be have an index. You remember we looked at indices of the arrays that we had, the simple arrays that we had in the previous video. So here the index of each value is going to have the value of the row that it's in and the column that it is in. So remember that counting starts from 0. So if we have this type of an array, we're going to have 3 rows and 4 columns, like that: column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. So the addresses of each value are going to be accessed by the name of the array, followed by the row and the column that they're falling in. So to further explain this, we have an example here. So we've got multi-array of type integer, and it's having 2 rows and 3 columns. Okay, so I guess you can see what's happening here. We can assign values directly, or we can let the user assign values. But then if we assign values directly, like we've done here, you're going to notice that we have our rows defined like that, and then inside our rows we've got the column values. Okay, so it's going to be very useful to think of this as okay, I think I should now switch to going to code blocks. So I hope you've got something from this. If you haven't, just try to start from the previous video, try to understand exactly coming from a simple array, and then I'm sure you're going to understand this better. Okay, so it's better to start from the basics. Now, when we have an array, let me just get this array here. So let's just try to copy. Let's try to copy this. Sorry. Okay. So let's say we have this kind of an array. To finish up with my explanation, this is what we're talking about. So these braces are simply signaling the beginning of the array and the end of the array. And then here it's going to be useful for us to think of this as being row 1 and this as being row 2. Okay, so I guess that should be easier to understand. All right, so under row 1 we've got our column values now, 2, 3 and 4, and under row 2 we've got our column values 7, 8 and 9. All right, so that should be pretty easy. So let's say we have this array, but then it's going to be very okay if we just put them put it back to being in one line. All right, so let's just get rid of that. Okay, so let's say we want to access the value 8. So we know that 8 is in the second row and in the second column. So what we're going to do is say multi-array, and then we have the location of 8. So we simply say 1 comma, oh sorry, not a comma, but you have to change and put your case into the other square brackets. So 1 1. All right, otherwise when you're looking at matrices we mostly say 1 comma 1, stuff like that. So this time we actually want to output this, so we're simply going to say C out. Yeah, that. So let's try to run and see what happens. Okay, so it's telling me I have an error. So what error should that be? Okay, we should have a comma here to separate the values. Okay, and then we also have an error here. Let me just open my log. What should the error be? Expected that before C out. Oh, sorry. This is our error. So let's run and check it out. Okay, so our program runs and it outputs 8. All right, so that's very easy. But let's say we want to let's say we want the user themselves to input the values of the array. So we're simply going to say we're simply going to delete these values that we inputted. Yeah, and just leave it like that, and we're going to let the user input the values. So here we're simply going to say, oh sorry about that. Okay, we're simply going to say enter the values of the first row. Yeah, of the first row. So we have 3 columns, which means that we're going to prompt the user to enter values 3 times. Okay, so let's simply just do this. Wonder why my caps lock was on. Okay, so something like that, and we can simply say cin. So we have multi-array, and we say 0 0. So we start with the first one. Okay, and to make things easy, we're simply just going to copy that and paste it there. Okay, so cin 0 1. So we are still importing the values of the first row. We cin 0 2. Okay, and after that, we're going to tell the user to enter the values of the second row. Now, right here, let's try to run something. So let's try to after the user enters the three values of the first row, let's say we want to output the second one. So we simply say multi-array. So multi-array, and we go to 0 1. Okay, so here we want to tell the user to say this value is in the first row and the second column. So let's say we can simply just include a message here. So let's just do that. Yeah, let's just do this. Let's type a message in here. So first row value of first row and second column, sorry, and second, I meant to write it to the second column is what is going to appear here. So let's try to run our program and see what happens. Okay, so the user needs to enter some values. So 9, 100, 2000. So I guess you can see value of first row and second column is 100. Okay, so we've got our 100 there. So we can go ahead and prompt the user to enter the rest of the values of our array. So we can simply also just copy that and put it there, so that here we say second row. Okay, so second row. So here we can simply also just copy this and put it there. We don't just want to waste time on so much typing. So here our values change. Now we want the second row. So the second row's index is 1 because we start counting from 0. So 1, 0, 1, 1, and 1, 2. Okay, so here we simply let's say we want to output or let's say we want to do some basic arithmetic. Let's say we want to add the first columns, the first value in the first column to the second value in to the first value in the second column. Okay, so let's say we want to add this to that, and this to that, and also this to that. Okay, so here we're simply going to say cout, and let's just change our message.
Okay, so
row 1 plus row 2. Okay, so here we can simply say multi-array. So multi-array 0 0 plus multi-array. So we're simply just going to get this because we're going to be using this for the next 3 cout statements. So here 1 0. Okay, then actually we can copy this whole, okay, like that, and there we go. So just some necessary space. Okay, just uniform. So we can also just include a message here to say your results. Oh yeah, the results. Okay, something like that. And it's going to be important to just include some spaces in our program. So we're simply just going to include that. Okay, and yeah, we can also include that there. Okay, so when we run our program, it's going to prompt us to enter the values of the first row. So in short, we're going to be entering something like these values, and then secondly we enter these values, and then we add these two values, we also add these two, and we also add these. All right, so we can simply run our program again. And yeah, it should run. Oh, I don't think we have an error now. Okay, so enter the values of the first row. So let's say we have 5, we have 6, we have 7, and then we enter the values of the second row. We have 9, we have 8, we have 3. Okay, so I guess you can see what happens here. So row 1 plus row 2. Sorry. Let's include end line statements here. Yeah, end line statements. End line. So let's just copy that. All right. So I guess we're not going to have a beta display. So it's very good to have a good display so that you know exactly the results that you're having, exactly where they're coming from. Okay, so we have something like that, and we have some other values as well. Okay, and I guess you can see, so row 1 plus row 2, there should be a space here as well. So let's just close this, and I guess you can see we didn't have a space here. So let's do something like that. Let's do something like that as well, and something like that. So this time when we run our program, we should have a better display now, better than the previous, which was also better than the previous. So we enter the values. Okay, we enter some more values for the second row. All right, so I guess you can see now row 1 plus row 2 is 135. So row 1 plus row 2 of the first column is 135. 63 plus 93, just like that. So I guess you can see what's happening. Okay, now that's just a basic example on how you can do calculations using your arrays. But let's say we want to display our values. Okay, let's say I want to display our values. In order for us to do that, we're going to use for loops. Okay, so for loops are pretty easy to use as long as you understand them. So let's get rid of all this. Let's get rid of all this. And we're going to say for. Okay, so we want to display our values, but then we have no values actually. So let's say we're the ones to decide the values that we want. So we say comma there, and we do that. Okay, so here we're going to say we have something like 6. So remember, we have three columns, so it means that we need to have 3 values inside here. Okay, so that should do. Now let's say I want to display all our values, and actually yeah, I think that should be okay. Let's say I want to display our values. We can simply say for int. So we're going to be using our knowledge from nested for loops. Okay, so int r is equal to, so r simply representing rows, so r is equal to 0, and r is less than 2. So we're saying r is less than 2 because r is less than 0. When we say it's less than 2, we're going to count 0 and 1 as 2 values, so we don't want it to reach 2. Okay, if we change this to 1, we can say is less than or equal to 2, but otherwise yeah, let's leave it like that. Then there we say r plus plus. Well, this is the easiest part of for loops. The thinking comes inside here. So here we want to output the values. So we want to output the values of the columns each time the row is the row for loop is run. So let me just let's just finish this up so that we can know exactly what we're talking about. So here we've got int, that's going to be columns, C for column, just to understand. Okay, so C is equal to let's say C is equal to 0 as well, and we say C is less than so C should be less than 3. Sorry, yeah, it should be less than 3 because we'll count from 0, 1, 2. That's going to be 3 values. So we can simply say C++. Okay, just like the language we're using. All right, so there we're gonna have okay, here we're gonna have our output. So we're simply going to say C out C out, what's the name of our array? So multi-array. Okay, so multi-array R, which is representing our rows, and C, which is representing our columns. Okay, and we can simply terminate there. And every time one row is outputted, we want to have something like a space, okay, an empty space. So we're simply going to say C out and L, and I think they should do it. Let's try to run our program and see what happens exactly. Okay, so let's just run, and I guess you can see what happens here. So we output 6, 8, and 9, which are right here. Okay, so that's what I was saying. It's useful to think of this as the first row and this as the second row, and then these values are the columns. Okay, So I guess you can see what we've done here. All right. We can also include a space when outputting our values. So we simply say space. Okay, so, or we can actually include something like this. Let me see. This might be able to create more of a table, and here we can simply maybe say something like yeah, something like that. So let's try to run our program now and see what happens. Oh, okay, we don't have this here. Okay, now we can run. And it should run. Okay, so there we have it. And yeah, it wasn't necessary to have this, but otherwise I guess you can see exactly what is happening. So it wasn't necessary to have this, but it was just necessary to have the space. And let's try to run this. Okay, so it should run, and I guess you can see what we have here. So we've got demarcations on our columns. All right, so I guess that was pretty easy, and I really hope you guys get the explanation on our multidimensional arrays very well. So notice that we've only looked at two-dimensional arrays. We're gonna have a video on 3 and more dimensional arrays. It should probably be the next video. So if you have any questions on what you can do with arrays, you have any questions concerning this video, you can simply just leave your questions in the comment section below. So thank you for watching this video, and see you in the next one.